Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Again?
Episode number 145. Did you get that episode? 145.
I got the 145 part.
Yeah, episode number 145.
That's pretty good. Woo! That's pretty good.
We're heading for 200. Huh?
How many do you have to do before we retire, Bill?
No.
No.
Our fans don't want us to retire.
To the end.
Don't want us to retire. Boy. Which, by the way, I want to start off the show with, if you've been listening to our podcast, please send us reviews. We've had a lot of reviews recently. I need reviews. I want to get up there in iTunes and Stitcher. I want to get up there with the big dogs. Right now, if you go on iTunes, we're number 3 in iTunes.
Really?
Yeah, we're beating Grant Cardone and all the rest of them.
And we're doing that on our own with no fancy, funny business, you know?
Emma and I and you doing the show with me. That's it. Episode number 145, Learning the Art of Making Time for Real Estate.
Oh, jeez. What do you follow me?
So it starts off with beware, exclamation point.
Is there a dog somewhere?
Yeah, no, it's worse than a dog, Peter.
Worse than
it starts with a D, man.
It starts debt.
Yeah, debt.
Debt. Destruction, depression, despondency.
Yeah. We call that a roller coaster. Goes up, it goes down. Some days you're good, some days you're bad. Yeah, it depends on how you feel. This podcast is not for the faint-hearted, flattering, polite, or desperate to be liked. Time, as you undoubtedly have discovered, is the most precious asset any human being has. Time to solve problems, time to discover a plan, time to gather information, time to develop marketing, leads, sales, managing, and profits for whatever you do. There have probably been plenty of times you've said to yourself, if I could just find an extra hour to whatever, right? If you could find an extra hour to blah, 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 right?
Sure.
Well, in this podcast, we are going to do a lot more than just get you an extra hour. That I promise. What we're going to do today is much bigger than just eking out an hour here and there. We will dramatically re-engineer your entire relationship with time. These are some bold promises. What do you think? The biggest and ugliest little secret about your personal and financial wealth has to do with the use or misuse of time. Think that's bold? Let's dig in and find out what I have to say. How's that description?
Deliver, Bill.
Emma said when she took the description this morning, she said, "This is a little long this morning, isn't it?"
I don't think it's that long because you have long, but it's strong.
Time is huge.
No, it is.
Time is a big thing.
That's exactly what I'm running into because I've tied up my weekends entirely.
Right.
And it leaves me a little less time than I ever had to do a lot more than I want to do. I want to do. And it's spring season, yards and lawns and crap. Even if I don't do that, yeah. So go ahead, I'm listening.
Before I start, I want to clarify that the most important 2 things that any real estate investor can do, the 2 things any real estate investor can do, because this whole thing is predicated off of this. Mm-hmm. Because when I get my coaching clients and my students to do these 2 things, they are successful. Just 2 things. But they're not just because they have trouble doing it.
Yeah.
1, spend an hour a day doing your marketing. 2, spend an hour a day talking to sellers. And if you don't have sellers to talk to, what do?
More marketing.
Work on the marketing.
Yeah, you just market until you get sellers and then start worrying about that.
Unfortunately, life gets in the way of this simple, easy formula, even for me.
Yeah.
Okay, because I have the same problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have things like other work, right? Family, friends, right? Your own feelings. How many times you get up in the morning, I just don't feel like doing that, right? Your attention span runs out.
What?
That was good. Your attention span runs out, right?
That wasn't fair. Bill's tired.
Money problems. Your desire runs out. You know, I mean, I'm not going to go off on this tangent, but we have this new thing in society called millennials, and they have a very short attention span. and their desire is not as strong as our generation. Mm-hmm. So when they want something, now, not all of them, obviously, I don't want to stereotype all of them, but, you know, we're in the world of quick satisfaction.
Well, it's easy to get entertained now. You just grab your phone, and you can just be mindless for hours.
Right.
You know, and, you know, just distracted.
Totally.
Look at the pretty dogs. Look at the pretty kitty cat.
So your environment messes you up, right? I mean, it could be your living quarters, could be a broken car, could be, you know, the swimming pool leaked, it could be a hurricane, it could be whatever, the environment, you know. This one is a big one. A lot of people don't look at, but your sleep. And I'm not talking about the amount of hours you sleep, but your deep sleep, so you make sure you're well rested, and nutrition. And they're tied together. And I tend to do that. Sometimes I do good, and sometimes I don't.
Yep.
You know? I mean, I was listening to a radio show the other day, and the guy was really clever because he's like, you know, they were talking about how important your sleep was, right? And they were talking about nutrition and all that. And he actually says, drinking alcohol before you go to bed is like the worst thing you could do.
Sure. People think it calms them down, mellows them out, but it doesn't help your sleep.
Yeah.
It kills your vitamin B1, and that helps you relax. And then now you start thinking of more crap, and pictures start flying around your mind. You start thinking of crap.
Yeah,
and
whatever. It just doesn't.
That's an unpaid announcement. That's an unpaid commercial.
So the last thing is sex, right? These are things
Wait a minute, is that on the good list or the bad list?
Well, how many people make decisions based on the opposite sex that may or may not be good for them? You know, like they're supposed to be like going to make an offer and they'd rather go on a date with their girlfriend. Yeah, type of stuff. Okay? So lack of awareness of these things and of this list is probably not far off than an alcoholic not knowing that he's got a drinking problem.
Wow. Well, he gets so used to living the way we do and everyone else does, and don't forget to do this, don't forget that. And did you catch Game of Thrones? You know, that you lose perspective on what's important.
Exactly. So before I get started, I have a disclaimer. Okay, and that is that I am completely, utterly, totally immersed and indoctrinated on time from Dan Kennedy.
Oh.
Okay. So he actually has a book called, in fact, I meant to tell Emma to put this in the chat. If you want to get the full story and get the full training from Dan Kennedy, the book is called No BS: Time Management for Entrepreneurs. Now, I've read other books and I've put my own twist to things, but you have to understand that I want him to have full credit. It's the best time management book ever written, and it's so easy to read. But his perspective on time is amazing.
Does it take long to read it? How much time does it take?
I don't know. Depends on how fast you read. I don't know.
Is the first part of it put some time aside to read this book?
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit rude with reading because, quite honestly, you sit on a toilet every single day. That gives you 15 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes to read. So you can at least read that much.
Yep.
And after a while, you'll finish the book. So, all right. So let's start with some math. I like math. So we're going to start with math.
Well, it is numbers. I mean, day has 24 hours, and you have to fit things in there.
So this way you can relate to the same conclusions that I'm going to give you by the end of the show. Okay? So here's how Dan Kennedy calculates your base earning target. Your base earning target. Okay? So if you wanted to make $200,000 a year, okay, which I think is a common number. I think a lot of people would strive to that. Obviously, 100,000 is like a break-even point as far as I'm concerned in society today.
Yeah, you get even. You can do the things you need and have a car, and
So I don't want anybody to fall into the trap of, well, I only need to make 100 grand. I mean, if you're going to do the math and you're going to do the program or you're going to change your time, why not?
Yeah, but isn't it true if you shoot for 100, you might not even make that because things happen.
Right. Really, if you look at Grant Cardone's model, the 10X rule, you should be doing $1 million.
Yeah.
But just for the sake of math and just for the sake of being real, I'm going to do 200,000 because I think 200,000 is a comfortable upper class wage.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what you do. So the math is you take the $200,000, right, and you divide that by 1,760. So 1,760 is the amount of hours you work in a year. So it's 220 days times 8.
Right, like the 5 days a week, 40 hours.
Okay, so it's 220 days times 8 equals 1,760. So you take the $200,000 and you subtract and you divide it by 1,760. Okay, that gives you a number of $113.63, and this is your base hourly number.
Right. So your target is to make that much per hour, and by the end of the year, you would have made $200,000.
Right. Except there's another problem.
Oh.
So what happens is your base hourly rate is not what you can use as a number. So you can't make $113.63 an hour. And here's the reason why. How many hours are you generally producing?
Oh, in that 40, how much are actually productive hours?
Yeah. Stop talking about 40 because I'm not talking about 40. It's 1,760. Out of the 1,760, how many of those hours are you actually producing? I'm sorry, I was a little abrupt there, but that 40-hour thing is like, I don't want, I'm trying to stay, and it's not.
But that's your base per week, though, right?
Right, but you could get somebody. I mean, I know people that work, 80 hours in a week and then take a week off. So it doesn't have to be a 40-hour week. I mean, most people do that. It's 1,760 hours a year.
However it slices up.
Yeah, however it slices up.
And how much of that is actually productive?
Yeah, so that's what we're going to talk about, because you have a bunch of not consumed time, right? So things like commuting, filling out government paperwork, doing invoicing, doing accounting, dealing with your vendors, family, friends.
The parts that aren't productive,
you can't bill for them.
Right. That doesn't make you money. That's the stuff you have to do to keep the show on the road. Right. But like filling out the paperwork,
It's like with you when you push my buttons and tell me you can't do something because you got to cut your grass. Right. I mean, to me, that's the biggest waste of time. But you find it as therapy. Right?
Well, I don't want to spend money hiring a guy right now.
Yeah, my guy cost me $27 to cut my grass.
Oh, give me your phone number.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Even if it was $37, I would do it because it's like my time. Because when we get done with this, you're gonna understand. In the next 10 minutes, you're gonna have a different perspective of cutting your own grass because we're gonna re-engineer your way of thinking about time. Okay, so let's say 1/3 of your time is productive. This is Dan Kennedy now. So let's say 1/3 of your time is productive. So that means 2/3 is the other.
Right.
Right. And that's pretty generous, actually. To say that 1/3 of your time is productive. So only 1 in 3 hours is counted as billable hours, right?
Right.
So you've got to multiply the 113.64 by 3. So really you're worth $340.92 an hour. $340.92 an hour.
Yep. To make that $200,000, you have to do that.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to bill all 1,760 hours. You're only going to be able to bill 1/3 of them. So to make up for the 2/3 you're not billing, you need to actually bill $340.92.
Yep.
Okay. Now watch this. This becomes your governing number for the $200,000. right?
Say it again?
Yep. This becomes your governing number for $200,000 per year for an income.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now watch this. First, you have to constantly be thinking of, what am I doing? Is it worth $340.92 per hour? That's the first thing that happens.
Mm-hmm. So each thing you do, you're sitting there writing something, go, is this making me any money? Damn it.
No, not making you any money. No. Can I bill $340.92 for what I'm doing right now?
I can't figure out who I'm billing.
Okay. Someone.
Uh-huh.
We're going to talk about that
just,
before
it throws me off when we talk in real estate. We're not billing somebody. We're doing something. We're winding up someplace, and there's a profit at the end, which you could divide into those numbers and see what you're making.
So aren't you billing your seller and billing your buyer?
I guess you could. Yeah, I don't think of it that way, but I mean, you're not saying, hey, I worked 10 hours, you owe me this. It's just at the end of the deal, he is paying that. So if you do the math.
So let's go into your layman way of thinking, because I'm kicking your ass right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I hate when he doesn't sleep.
So let's go into your layman way of thinking. How many students do we have when they first come on, decide that they're going to go out and do the work in the house? How much did you do that last year?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to you when you did your taxes? What did you do? You came back to me and said, we need to do more houses.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why? Because this is what happened. You spent too much time going to Home Depot, going to talk to the contractor, doing this, doing that, doing all the things that didn't get you another house.
Yeah.
Because your most productive time, I'm going to tell you how to make $340.92. And I'm going to do that before the show's over, but I'm going to give you a little hint right now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the highest paid job you can do in this industry? The highest paid job in this industry. And I'm talking about all of real estate. What is the highest paid job in all of real estate?
I would guess the guy who makes the offers.
Exactly right.
Because that's what gets you the product.
Making the offer is the highest paid job you can do.
Mm-hmm. I like when you describe it as the fulcrum, that's right in the middle of getting to that from the marketing and finishing selling after you've gotten that, but it's right in the middle.
Yeah. So
that's why
you're
you're
making
doing
offers, and what Peter's talking about is when you make offers, if you don't have leads, it makes you put the lead machine in and pull the offers to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you've made the offers, now you need to push on getting the deal done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you're constantly making offers, if you're looking at it, and now if you look at it, I'm making $340.92 per hour doing that, because that's the whole business. If you're not making offers, you're not making money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so so number one, it's going to constantly make you think, okay, what am I doing right now? Is this worth billing $340.92?
Mm-hmm.
Number two, and this is the most valuable thing out of this whole podcast. This is the most valuable portion of the podcast, as far as I'm concerned, from my perspective, having done this for years. By doing this puts a meter on all of your time. It puts a meter on your life, and it shows you what's consuming time and what's not. So really, what it does is it forces you to think, is this an investment or is this an expense?
Mm.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
Okay. That means that the unnecessary 12-minute phone conversation cost you $68.18.
Yeah. I grabbed one of your students last night that he'd gotten a nasty response from somebody. It was obviously a horrible suspect, the type of person you wouldn't want to spend 1 ounce talking to. And he sent this long text explaining. So the guy would go, I guess you're right, which never happened. So about 10 seconds into this long text, I pushed the button. I said, no, don't answer it. And I walked away. Waste your time. And I walked away. Because he spent all this time like trying to convince a flaming a-hole why he was right. And he was, no, just like, I'm sorry.
It's interesting that you say that, because one of the things, one of the viewpoints that I have that is much different, and it comes off as arrogance, and it's really not. It's just a different level of operating. And when you do the things that we're talking about in this podcast, and you have this mindset that I'm going to give you right now, it changes your life. See, I feel it's an honor for someone to have me in their house making an offer, because people like me are not walking around in every corner.
Mm-hmm.
I could give them things in the sale of their house that nobody else could give them. You know, things like cleaning it out, or a quick sale, or, you know,
more money in the
making
long
up
run.
payments. Yeah, more money. Multiple things. I mean, I've had my crew go in and move them out. I've hired moving companies. I've paid for 2 years worth of rental property so they have a place to live.
Mm-hmm.
I've paid off credit cards. I've paid off cars. I have one right now. I got to pay off the ex-wife $45,000. He doesn't have the money. You know what I mean? There's things that I do that a realtor definitely can't do, because the only thing the realtor can offer is money, and money doesn't fix all the problems. Nope. So when I'm making an offer, I feel like I'm choosing the seller. The seller's not choosing me.
Yeah, you don't have to do the deal.
Right.
You can take it or leave it. If you don't like it, walk away.
So what happens with many new investors, like last night when we were at the meetup, I got one of my coaching clients. He's so desperate to do a deal that he would run down Main Street stark ass naked to get a deed. I mean, he's that desperate. And I got to tell you right now, that's why he's not getting deals.
Oh yeah,
because he's too needy, and that pours through the deal when he's negotiating.
Yeah.
Right.
That's too bad.
So this math that we're talking about actually helps you quantify what's going on in your life. And let me tell you, this is not an easy drill. If you actually do this, if you actually buy the Dan Kennedy book and read it and actually do it, okay? When I mean do it, I mean like just heed his advice, or this advice that I'm giving you, because some of it is his, some of it is mine, okay? When you heed his advice, I'm going to tell you that it's going to mess you up.
Well, just thinking about it messes you up.
Because what it really does down deep at the core is it really evaluates your decision making. You know, like one time I read a book called The 1 Minute Millionaire. I forgot who it was written by. 1 Minute Millionaire, right? Mm-hmm. And basically, the 3 Minute Millionaire. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think I've heard you say that before.
Can you look that up? Was it 3 Minute Millionaire? Could you look that up, please? See who wrote it. And the gist of the book, it's been some years since I read it, but the gist of the book is that before you purchase something, you have to go through this process in your mind for 3 minutes. And one of the questions is, where is whatever you're holding in your hand or whatever you're about to purchase, where's it going to be in 3 years?
There's the 1 million.
Okay, so it is the 1 Minute Millionaire.
The Enlightened Way to
The Enlightened Way to Wealth.
Wealth.
By Mark Victor Hansen. That's what it is. So it's the 1 Minute Millionaire by Mark Victor Hansen. And it was an amazing book because all you're doing is just evaluating before you purchase something. Where's this thing going to be like in 2 years and 3 years? And what am I going to, and there's a couple questions you ask yourself before you purchase it. And you know what happened? My purchasing ability like dropped to an eighth. And all of a sudden, because I stopped buying shit that I was like just buying just because. You know? Walk around your house. I'm doing that right now. I got crap in my house my wife has bought. It's like my wife is on probation right now. And she does it. She thinks it's a joke, but she's on probation. She brings one thing out. She's got to take 2 things out.
One thing in.
And one thing in. I'm sorry. Yeah. She got to bring one thing in. She's got to take 2 things out. Right?
I'm ready to do spring cleaning, like go through both my houses and just like dump stuff, just old stuff, just start dumping.
So at one point you made a decision to buy that stuff. This is how your time is the same way. Your time is the same way. So spend a minute and think, am I going to make $340.92 doing this? Right?
Yeah. Does it contribute to that? Not contribute to that?
Now, here's what's going to happen. We're going to have some of them say, but money's not that important to me, and I don't need to do that, and, you know, I'd rather have fun. Okay? Here's the point. The 80-20 rule that I didn't make up, but everybody talks about, okay? The 80-20 rule says that 20% of your tasks give you 80% of what you want. So if money's not your thing, then what we're talking about, okay, still works.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose you want to spend 20 hours a week with your kids.
Sure.
Okay? Just as an example, you want to spend 20 hours a week with your kids. Well, 20% of your tasks are going to give you that.
Right.
So it's how you spend the rest of the week that's going to give you that 20 hours with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So basically, I'm going back to the same rule. The numbers are a little different, but I'm going back to the same rule that a third of what you do is productive on what you get. Mm-hmm. Right? It's kind of like the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do gives you 80% of what you got. It works for marketing. 20% of your leads will give you 80% of your income. It works for your job. 20% of your 40 hours a week is what gets you your paycheck. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. 20% of your offers will give you 80% of your income. Mm-hmm. We do fundraising all the time. 20% of the people in the group will pay 80% of the money.
Yeah. I even talked to my son at the office. 20% of the time, he has a new team he's on at his job. Insurance and blah blah. But I told him, he goes, 20% is work, the rest is blah blah blah. These guys want more and more meetings and meetings and meetings. Yeah. What do you get done in a meeting? Just
right.
Like then you have to go to work.
Right.
So it works in a lot of places. Hang around the water cooler, or whatever it is.
Right. Okay. So if you pay attention to this 80-20, right? So now let's work on that. Make sure that you get the 20% of what needs to be done so you can enjoy the 80%. Mm-hmm. So how do you do that? Mm-hmm. So here we go. Ready? How are we doing on time? Good, we're okay on time. So here we go. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to get a blank piece of paper, an 8.5 by 11-inch piece of paper, or a regular size piece of copy machine paper. And I want you to turn it landscape. Landscape means it's longer left to right than top to bottom. Mm-hmm. Okay, so landscape is on its side, left to right. So the 8.5 is left to right. Right?
Sure.
I want you to draw a line down the middle of the piece of paper. Okay? On the left side of that piece of paper, I want you to list all the things that you currently do in a 7-day week. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm talking about sleeping, showers. I'm talking about eating. I'm talking about sex. I'm talking about workouts. I'm talking about time with kids, grocery shopping, driving, watching TV, whatever you do in the course of a week. Just list as much of it as you can. Now, this drill that I'm going to show you how to do, okay, is something that is difficult because it may take you weeks to figure out even what you do. Because you may not be able to just sit down and do an inventory of your time.
So if you have to, you have to actually do it every day and write down what you did.
Sometimes you're going to have to go through the week to actually, I forgot to write that in a list. Right?
Yeah.
Doing your laundry. You know what I mean?
I can imagine just keeping a record would be scary, or just enlightening, I should say.
Right.
Just recording everything you do.
But for right now, try to get a fairly close, accurate list, just to start. So write down all the things that you do already, or you feel obligated to do. Mm-hmm. Going to church, taking your spouse out to the movies, watching Last Man Standing, watching American Idol. Mm-hmm. I don't know, playing a guitar, cutting the grass, washing the car. I mean, I could go on for days with lists.
Oh, well, Bill, don't forget mulching.
Oh, mulching, cutting the grass, yeah.
Yeah, mulching.
On the right side of this piece of paper, I want you to write down all the things that you want to do, all the things you dream to do. Like you want to be a professional swimmer, so you want to take swimming lessons, or you want to be a real estate person, you want to make real estate profits. Whatever you can think of. You want to run a marathon. You want to go to the gym. You want to lose 20 pounds. I don't know, whatever it is, just write those things on the right side. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to tell you, haven't done this drill a lot, the right side of the list can't be bigger than the left side of the list. Just a little hint there. But you're going to soon figure out how to do this because you're going to have to pick and choose which ones to do. Because now what happens is we're going to come to the part where I like to do this on paper with pencil. Now, I know that a lot of you, like Emma would.
What's a pencil?
Yeah, honestly. And I'm not picking on Emma, but, I mean, not too long ago, we were in my office, and she literally said to me, what did you say? What did you say? I haven't written. This is the first time. It's weird to write. That's what she said. It's weird to write. She was writing on a piece of paper, and she says it's weird to write. Because Emma's always got a phone or a computer interface. Mm-hmm. And thank God for me, because that's her job. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, she's constantly, it doesn't matter where we are, we're in the car, we're, how much is this, or what is that, or how many things we use Kartra to run our website, and she'll just go in there and on her phone, and she like bing bang boom, right? So this is, I'm telling you, please heed my advice here. Please take the piece of paper that you just wrote out, and then I want you to get a calendar, a physical calendar. I don't care if you can go on Google and Word and just print a calendar, okay? I use daily calendars. I don't use the little boxes.
Yeah, well, you need something longer if you're going to write.
So you need to have your 24 hours in a day.
Yeah, so you can schedule everything, right?
Right.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take all the things you wrote on that first piece of paper and start plugging them into the calendar. Okay? Now, everything's got to go in there. Now, these are like little blocks. Like when you were a kid and you would take the blocks and put it in the board, the square ones and the triangle ones, and I forgot what that's called, but they're like little blocks, and you have to fit them in. So let me give you an example. You go to the grocery store on Tuesday from 3:30 to 5. It has to be a block of time. Okay, and you just need to keep juggling these blocks around until they fit the pieces, like fitting a piece of a puzzle together. Right? And you keep fitting them in until you can figure out when to do it. Now, this drill, I'm telling you, will make you millions and millions of dollars, or it will get you out of your job, or it will get you whatever you want. You want a Lamborghini? It'll get you a Lamborghini. Okay? Because we always talk about where attention goes, not always, we say it often, where attention goes, energies flow, results show. When you put your attention on getting a Lamborghini for 1 hour a week, because that's what you time blocked yourself to do, what's going to happen?
Well, you would eventually get it.
Right?
Yeah.
If you put your attention on real estate now I'm telling you 10 hours a week, because I'm telling you an hour for marketing, an hour to talk to sellers. Okay? If you do that, what's going to happen?
Well, something has to shake loose.
Right. Okay? And if you listen to all my other podcasts, even if you just got a rent-to-own from a seller and sold it to a rent-to-own buyer and you made $3,000 in the middle, and not even cash flow or nothing, just made $3,000, which you shouldn't do a deal for less than $3,000. But if you make at least $3,000 and you did that once a month, what would that do to your life?
That'd be different. Totally change.
It could be that way. So what's happening is all this training, all these podcasts, all these tricks and gadgets, and you think it's deal structuring, you think it's all these other things. It's the use or misuse of time that's giving you what you want. Now, I'm going to go back to your scenario where you were talking about doing your taxes. Right? So what really happened was the use and misuse of your time when you got to the end of the year on how much money you actually made. But you didn't do the evaluation. You didn't have the meter on your time while you were making the decision. You went all year just doing what you were doing while you were doing it. And then you get to the end, and the tax man put a meter on your time. He's like, this is how much you made. You're like, I worked all year for that? Or, oh my God, I worked that little for that much? I mean, it can go either way. It's actually like the 1 Minute Millionaire book that I was telling you about. It's the decision that you make right before you do it. And I have to tell you that when you do this drill, you're going to be amazed at the decisions you're making you don't even know you're making. You're not in control of your own thoughts all the time. I'm going to tell you that much.
No, I'm sure. But, things come about. I mean, it's harsh to look at this because you have to admit to yourself, like, that was a wrong decision. But a lot of it comes because some of my decisions came from 5, 10, 20 years ago. When I had a job, when it was over, that was it. I didn't have another job to do, like the real estate. So, in that extra time, I would do the other things to do, to save money, do something else. It's a different scenario, but you have the old habits and decisions still clinging on.
Right.
So you have to actually stare them square in the eye, and take some bold moves. But that's what happens to me on this. So it helps me look at that and say, well, that's why. So now I can change it. If you don't understand it, you can't change it.
Here's my theory. If you have $1,000 worth of debt, you know how you fix it?
I assume make $1,000 and pay it. What do you say?
Exactly wrong.
Yeah, what?
Get $2,000 or $3,000 worth of debt.
Okay.
You double or triple it.
Uh-huh.
Why? Because now you're going to have to raise your necessity level to pay for it, and you're going to start getting clever.
Mm-hmm.
If you I don't know, pick a problem.
Pick up your current business that you're running is shrinking as you go.
Right.
And no matter what you do, you can't make more money at that. So you look, I think I better do more real estate.
Right.
Or, my job, I'm 62 and they want me to retire and get out of here.
Right.
And I was thinking of working 4 more years. They want me to go now. Now what do I do?
Right.
Whatever it is.
So usually what I do is I double my problem.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm 62 years old and I'm looking for one way to make money, I'll force myself to find 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And a basic law that I have found out through years is if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person. Because they have the ability to handle time the way we're talking about it. They're going to filter and pre-screen the meter.
Mm.
They're going to know how to get to the $340.92 shit.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to whack all the rest of it. Right? We talked about this in a meetup last night. One of the most important things you can do as an investor is figure out who's a prospect and who's a suspect. And then once you figure out who's a prospect and who's a suspect, at that point, figure out if it's a ugly house or a pretty house, because you're going to deal with it 2 different ways. Mm-hmm. Or in other words, it's just as simple. You're going to pay cash for it, or you're going to use terms.
Sure.
If you're going to use terms, there's 4 things you need to know. 1, how much can you pay? The lowest price.
Yep.
2, how much are the monthly payments? The lowest
price.
1. 3, the terms. The highest one. How far can you go? And 4, how much do you have to give for deposits or option consideration money?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 20% things.
Those 4?
Doing what I just said are the 20%
Oh,
things.
yeah. I'm thinking 80% for... I had it backwards in my head. Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Now let's get back to time. So, because I'm going to get to that in a minute. So, when you have these blocks of time in your schedule, okay, they're appointments.
Mm.
Now, when you look up the word appointment in a dictionary, what do you think it says?
I don't, just a generic, someplace, a meeting that you have to have with somebody over something, someplace.
Right. So it's some agreement with your time.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it say who the appointment's with? It just says appointment, right?
Yeah, probably.
So if you make an appointment with yourself, is it an appointment?
Yeah, I suppose you could do that. Well, you have to do that.
So if you made an appointment with a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, and if you didn't show up, you still had to pay them the $340.92. What would you do?
Yeah, you show up.
Okay.
Or you call way ahead.
So if you make an appointment to do your marketing and you don't show up, what should you do? You just paid yourself $340.92. It's no different than writing a check out of your checkbook for the doctor, the lawyer, or the dentist that you didn't show up for. It's no different.
You owe yourself $300. You got to go make somewhere now.
You have to look at it that way, because if you don't look at it that way, you won't do this. If you don't put a meter on your time And it's not all about money. I mean, for some people, I mean, you have to make money. Everybody has to make money. So if it's not about time, then measure it some other way. But if it's not about money, measure it some other way.
Yeah, but it's going to be some way that money helps you get there. I mean, people say, I can't do this, I can't do that. I don't have time to see my grandkids. Why not? Well, I have to work.
Right.
Well, same stuff then. You still have to do it.
Right. So this will force you to make decisions on how you spend your time, because now the meter's always running.
Well, I try to look at it where you make sure you make the time to sit there for your boss to make him some money. Why wouldn't you do that for yourself?
Right.
Like, don't I like me more than my boss or my students or the clients or whoever?
Right.
Isn't it as important?
I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because you haven't figured out how to control your own thoughts.
Yeah.
You're the effect of the environment instead of creating the environment. Anybody that knows me, that tells me the truth, and this is such an arrogant thing to say, but I don't say it, other people say it. When I walk into a room, do you know I'm there? Always. People tell me that all the time. When all I do is just walk into the room. I could walk into a room with a bunch of strangers, and they know I'm there. Why?
Well, I think of it as personally that you're not hiding, and a lot of people are, or they're too damn quiet, or they're just observing, and you're operating.
Right.
You're ready to do something.
Right.
How do you describe it?
That would be a good way to do
Is
it.
that good enough?
Yeah. I definitely have confront. I am not worried about being where I am, and I definitely have no. Emma teases me all the time. I mean, we were in a Five Guys the other day, and I'm like, some girl was sitting like on the other side, and it had nothing to do with flirting or anything like that. She went in the bathroom. I'm like, oh, this is a good time, because otherwise she gives me a hard time. I cleaned up my stuff and I went over and I said to the girl, I said, hey, I don't take this. I'm not being weird. And my daughter just went in the bathroom, so she can't yell at me for doing this. I said, but you have freaking beautiful eyes. She goes, oh, thank you. And I just walked away. It had nothing to do with, I wasn't trying to pick her up or anything like that. Peter, her eyes, she was all the way across the restaurant, and I caught a glint where they like sparkled. It was like a sunlight. It was like a lighthouse in the fog. I mean, she had stunning eyes. And I do that all the time. And Emma's like, you can't talk to strangers like that. You know what I mean? And it's just, that's just me. I just walk up to people in stores and I just start talking to them. We have a 5 or 10 minute conversation and I walk away.
Yeah. Bill, that happened to me last night.
You did?
Yeah. Some girl came up to me and says, you have marvelous eyes.
Really? Good. Well, you do.
At the meetup.
You do. Yeah, you do.
Well, it doesn't happen as often as when I was younger with bigger blue eyes, but yeah, that's cute. Right. That's cute.
All right, good. So lastly, if you want to make $340.92 per hour as an investor, you have to really concentrate on the 20%. So the 20% is this. 1, develop and send marketing out. 2, talk to sellers. It's honest to God, it's that easy. You manipulate this in your life. You manage these things we're talking about in your life. And I'm giving you an overview. We could dig into this and probably do a whole 1-day seminar just on this.
We could do a series of 145 podcasts on this subject.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And when you're talking to sellers, so now when you're talking to sellers, and I just rattled this off for a few minutes ago, here's what you get paid $340.92 an hour to do. And I'm just picking that number if you want to make $200,000. So I'm going to give you a list of a few things. Yeah. It's a list. It's a list of a few things that you do. If you do what I am telling you to do right now, your $340.92 will appear. And I am not mixing words here. I am not blowing hype here. I am telling you to take this as gospel. Take this as the word. Take this very, very serious, what I'm going to tell you right now, because if you do what we just talked about in this podcast for the last 45 minutes and you actually implement it, even just a little bit, your life will change. Okay? I said in the beginning of the podcast, we're going to re-engineer the way you think about time. I think I've done that. It wasn't difficult. We did it in 45 minutes. Okay? All right. Here are the things. You have to know whether or not your seller is motivated. If they're not, whack them. Dan Kennedy calls these people time vampires. A not qualified seller who's not motivated, who's not willing to hear your offers and willing to work with you on it. I'm not saying you have to buy a house from them. I'm just saying they have to be willing to listen to a terms deal or willing to listen to a deep discount. They have to be willing to do what you plan to do. In other words, your plan and their plan are similar, and you can talk about it and come up with a conclusion.
And do you have to convince them of this, or are they already there when you
They're
find
already
them?
there. Their plan, what I just said is, I don't think you got what I just said. When their plan and your plan are similar, okay, then you can talk about a solution.
Right.
It's no different than boy meets girl.
Sure. It's either there or not there.
Right. So if there's things that are common, then relationship evolves. If there are things that are not in common, relationship dissolves.
Yeah. Well, your first line is find a motivated seller.
Right.
It's not make one. It's
Right.
not create one. It's not convince one.
Right.
It's find.
They're there.
Yeah.
They are in the market, every good market, every bad market, they are there. If you are, and I said this in the meetup last night, if you call for sale by owners, you go onto our website, flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff, and you call for sale by owners, right? If you call, you should be able to call about, if you're a decent person, decent communication and have a little bit of sales skills, you could do it in about 5 people. You can make 5 phone calls, you'll make an appointment. If you don't have such good skills, or you don't have your script down, or you haven't gotten yourself prepared, it'll be more like 10 or 15. If you've made 15 to 20 phone calls and have not made an appointment, you are heavily undereducated, and you need to either come find a guy like me, or you need to get educated, because you are doing something wrong. If you make 20 phone calls and do not have an appointment for sale by owners, or if you talk to 20 people that have a house for sale and you have not made an appointment or have not bought a house, you are doing something wrong. You're undereducated. Recognize it and fix it. End of story. Don't come to me whine. Don't whine to me on the support ticket. I'm going to say the same exact thing and the same exact tone that I'm giving you right now. Fix it. You're undereducated. I don't care where you get your materials. I don't care where you learn it. You're undereducated. Okay? Find a motivated seller, number 1. Now you got to figure out, okay, is it a pretty house or an ugly house? Is it a cash deal or a terms deal? You just got to figure that out. That's the first thing. That's the first fork in the road. I've already babbled through all this already, right? If it's an ugly house, number 3, if it's an ugly house, just know your formulas. Don't deviate from them. Don't try to take a deal and massage it and turn it into a deal, because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. You're going to be pissed off at yourself later on when you're putting $3,000 into a deal. Like the closing I was trying to do yesterday, that I thought I was going to make 50 grand and I'm breaking even. I was going to make 50 grand. It cost me $29,000 for closing costs. I will show you the settlement statement. So when I talk to you people about this stuff, this is not some made up shit. I have settlement statements. I have a cabinet full of all these numbers that I talk about. This is not some made up, hype Bill's ego shit. I'll show you the settlement statement. I'll show it to you, meaning Peter. $29,000 for closing costs. It says it right on the settlement statement. That's not the 20 grand that went to my hard money lender. And it's all because I held the property too long and I didn't follow my own rules. And it happens.
Yeah.
Even to me.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, because I sat in the house and I said the wrong things when I bought it. Okay? So stick to your numbers. I broke my formula. That's all that happened.
Oh.
I broke my formula, and I broke some rules with contractors. That's all that happened.
Right.
That's all that happened. Nothing else happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because life got in my way. Okay? Now, to be fair, I want to make sure I get the whole story here. In the middle of this house, my wife had cancer. Okay, so I was spending a lot of time with my wife. So, I mean, I'm not saying there's plausible excuses, but...
Nah, things happen. But you look at the whole big
when I was
picture.
talking about the environment changing, that was my environment changed.
Yeah. Yeah, and that happened. I saw all of that happen.
Yeah.
And, but you look at the big picture, there's a lot more right going than wrong.
Yes.
But that's how you learn, too. I mean...
I can afford to have that house, and I was afford to carry it so long because of all the other deals I had.
Yeah.
So, yes. All right.
Yeah.
So, 1, find out if they're motivated. 2, now figure out if it's an ugly house or a pretty house. You're going to use cash or you're going to do terms, one way or the other, because, I'm a Ron LeGrand guy, so pretty house to me means terms. Okay.
Yep.
Then you got to figure out if it's ugly, make sure you use your formulas and don't deviate from them, because it might feel good to buy that house like you're doing something, but in a month or 2 or 6 months later, when you're wondering how you're going to do the closing and have to bring $5,000 to the table because your formula is bad, you're gonna hate it. What the hell's going on with your phone? Thank you. Sorry. Is it the same person?
No.
Okay.
Bill, you didn't know I was popular?
Yeah. Peter's phone is blowing up over here. All right.
I have it on stun, but it's zipping on the phone.
Yeah. So here we go.
Table.
So once you fix, so when you have an ugly house, you want to make sure that you're going to use the formulas, right? And this formula is very simple. I'm just going to rattle it off, okay? You're going to use the Mayo formula. That's MAO, maximum allowable offer. MAO. And that formula is simple. You take your after renovated value. So if you're buying an ugly house, you're going to comp it as a pretty house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That number, okay, is what you're going to sell for after you fix it up. Okay. You're going to take your after renovated value, multiply it by 70%, and then minus your repairs. That's the maximum allowable cash offer. So Peter, if I have a pretty house and they want cash, what do?
Times 70%.
So you take the after renovated value, the comps, and you multiply it by 70%, and there's your cash offer. I always pull back $5,000 just because.
Right.
Okay, that's just an arbitrary thing, but I pull back $5,000 just because. So if we have a $100,000 house and it's pretty, we don't need to do any work. We're going to multiply it by 70, so we can't pay more than how much?
$70,000.
That's not what I just said.
65.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, if you're not,
So the maximum allowable offer is $70,000. I'm going to do 70% and pull back at least $5,000. So my maximum allowable offer is going to be $6,500. 65,000. Yeah.
Well,
so where am I going to start negotiating? Not at 65,000. I'm probably going to be down in the 50s somewhere, and I'm going to work my way up. Okay. That's your cash offer.
Right. And that spread is your profit, mistakes, crazy stuff,
miscellaneous, costs, holding costs,
all this stuff, so that in the end you'll have...
Just follow that formula. I learned that formula from Ron LeGrand. I don't know if he invented it. I've heard other people say that he hasn't. It doesn't matter. I learned it from him. He should get credit from me that I learned it from him, because it's made me millions of dollars. Okay?
Well, if you don't do that, you get the house, you try to figure out how much it's going to cost. Well, how much will it sell for? Then how much will it cost to fix it? And then how much will be left over? Should we do it? Is that enough profit? And the math's already been done. Why would you take every house on its own merit and try to figure out what would happen when there's a formula to follow?
I don't know why this just popped into my head, but because of formulas, I had a gas station I bought one time. The guy started at $800,000. $800,000.
Oh.
I paid $171. It took me 14 or 16 months to do it. And I went to visit that guy multiple times a month.
Wow. I didn't know that. You plugged away for over a year to get it?
Yeah. And I went to see him multiple times a month.
Were you looking at other ones too?
No. It just happened to be something that I found. Somebody I knew.
And you wanted that one?
Yeah.
Okay. You plugged away at it until you got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's cash. That's if you're going to pay cash, you're going to buy an ugly house. Now, if you're going to buy a pretty house, here's what you need to do. This is all in the name of making $340.92. This is the 20% that you need to do to make money. Mm-hmm. These are the activities that are going to give you 80% of your income. Mm-hmm. Okay? I am as direct forward and as blunt as I could be with this today because I want to get this off the plate so our listeners know what to do, and I don't have support tickets on and all that kind of stuff because this is it. This podcast out of the 145 that we do is probably the most important podcast because when you get this shit straight, all the rest of the stuff that we teach will go in. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Oh, absolutely. Well, you're determining what should be done and also what shouldn't.
Right.
Both ends of the sword there.
So here we go. The first thing you're going to do on a pretty house, and I already rattled this off, the first thing you're going to do when you're on a pretty house is you need to figure out, as the professional home buyer, this is the most elevated, most senior, most powerful thing you can do with a terms seller. You want to figure out what their price is, their internal price, not what they're asking, what's their internal price. What is their drop dead lowest price? I'm not saying you pay that because if you do owner financing, you may not pay that, but you need to know what that number is. Mm-hmm. Okay? You need to know that at a certain number, they're just going to walk away. It doesn't matter what you do. You need to know what that number is. Okay? Number two, which there's ways to do that.
Yeah, I'm thinking, should I ask you or not? Not today, maybe.
Not today, because we're getting to the end of the show. But there's ways. We've taught that in many podcasts, and there's ways to do it. You just need to know how to do it. So if you're gonna get educated on how to do real estate, these are the things. When I say you're undereducated, these things we're talking about right now is where your education needs to lie. It needs to be in these things, because if you do these things good, you will make money. Mm-hmm. You will. There's no doubt.
Yeah, every one of these is a profit center or not. So you have to do each of these well, and it adds up to like really gold.
So the first thing you need to do is figure out their lowest internal number. Second thing you need to do is you need to figure out, if you're doing terms deals, what's the least amount they're willing to accept for a payment. Mm-hmm. Because that's going to determine whether you're going to do a slot deal or whether you're going to do a lease option deal, whether you do a subject to deal. It's going to determine everything. Mm-hmm. A lot of times it's what they owe.
Right.
But you need to figure that out, and there's certain ways to do that, which goes back to what we're just talking about, which is a good education.
Right.
Okay. The third thing you need to figure out is how much time will they give you? What's the term? Now, term is more than just time. The word term in real estate is more than just time, right? Like the occupancy, like are they going to let you use the whole building? Like sometimes I'll buy a multifamily and the guy will not want me to use the garage because he's got all his shit in there. Oh, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So term is more than just time, but in this case, we're talking about time and the terms of the deal.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that word I've looked that up because it means a number of different things.
Right.
One of them is all the conditions, the agreement. Right. You'll do this, I'll do that. And the other one is just pure time.
It's pure time.
Pure time.
So here I'm talking about a little bit of both. But mostly just the time for right now. Mm-hmm. So are they willing to wait 2 years for you to pay them off? Are they willing to wait 5 years or 10 years for you to pay them off? Mm-hmm. And it really makes a difference. And this is a huge factor, which I don't think I've ever stated this clearly. What makes a difference is how much money they're getting out of the sale.
That's right, because if they'll give you more time, you can give them a little more money, right?
So yes, but let's go the other end of that. Suppose a guy owes $110,000 on a $100,000 house. Mm. Will he give you 10 years?
Well, he kind of has to, doesn't he?
He is not getting nothing out of it. Matter of fact, you're going to save him $20,000.
What doesn't matter because he's not at the end. He's not getting anything at the end.
Right.
He's saving right this second.
He's saving $20,000 to get the problem. What you're doing is you're taking the problem away from him, and he doesn't have to deal with it anymore. He doesn't have to be an accidental landlord or go to foreclosure or anything like that.
Or pay $20,000 to sell the house out of his pocket today.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're saving that today for the guy, and he has to let you take the time to pay
So
the
he'll
debt
give you 10
down
years.
and make a deal out
Okay,
of it.
so now take that same deal, and the guy's had the property for 20 years and paid a monthly payment, and now he's got a $100,000 piece of property. He owns it free and clear, and he's decided he wants to go to the bank like a savings account, and he wants his $100,000 because his daughter's going to college, and he needs the money to pay for the daughter to go to college.
Yep.
How much time is that guy going to give you?
Well, does he need the money now for college?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, he's not going to give you time.
See what I mean? So those are two extremes.
He might give you 4 years, $25,000 a year, though, right, for college.
Right. So those are two extremes, right? So my point is that's a scale, and it's somewhere your sellers, it's somewhere in there. Your job is to figure that out.
Right.
I'm giving you a hint and telling you that the amount of money they're getting from the sale has everything to do with, and what they're doing with the money has everything to do with the time.
Yeah.
Now, I've come up with some cute little ideas, like the guy that wants to pay for the daughter for college. We're doing a deal like that. I'm doing a deal like this right now, actually. So I'm sorry, I just floated into that deal for a minute. Don't ask me why I did that. So the guy that has $100,000 that's free and clear needs the money for the daughter for college. You could say to him, well, why don't you go get a line of credit, take the money out, and I'll pay the mortgage payments on the line of credit. Right? It's a way to do that.
Sure.
Or because what happens is if you don't do that and you got to pay cash, you now go back to the original Mayo formula we're talking about. You're only going to give him $70,000 and he's going to lose $30,000 or $65,000. He's going to lose $35,000 to your formula.
If he sells it conventionally on the market, he's not getting the whole 100,000. It doesn't happen.
Right. And one of the things that made me become a creative finance guy way back when is when I realized I had the realization one day that I could take a free and clear house and turn it into a subject to deal. And the reason why is because I would advise them to go get a loan, and I would change my formulas around and take it from a free and clear owner finance deal and allow them to get 80% of their money out of the house. And then I would just turn it into a subject to deal. I would take over subject to, meaning that it's subject to the underlying mortgage agreements. So I would help them make those mortgage agreements, like the interest and the term and the payments and the taxes and insurance. I would structure that deal with them. And that's when I realized, oh, wow, I could start doing all these other things. And that was like the first time I realized creative financing was the way to go. That was some years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And it was because of that situation where I was actually working with someone, which, by the way, I didn't buy the house, but it made me think outside of the box. And that's when I realized there are so many ways to buy real estate. So many ways. Your imagination is your guide.
If you look at the difficulty the person's facing, what they're trying to solve, you just have to stop and think, well, what could we do? How about if we did this? How about if we do that? Just a way to do it. Because somebody sells a house, they don't get the whole full price. They only get 85, maybe 80% anyways.
Right.
So if you can figure it out for them, they should. And as long as they're not stubborn, they can do it.
Right. They got to be flexible.
Yeah. Otherwise, wait month.
And your plan and their plan have to match. That's why I was saying, like what I'm talking about with the cash. If we're going to do owner finance, we're talking about terms, right? If the terms matches their plan, they'll do it. Yeah. If it fulfills their plan, they'll do it.
Has to fit their timeline in a sense.
Well, the money and the way you're going to pay them has to fulfill what they want to do when they move on.
Right.
And when your plan and their plan match, that's what I'm talking about. If so, like we'll say the college one that I was doing, right? Suppose he won't go and get college loans. Just went and get college loans, and then you made the monthly payments of the college loans. Now your plan and his plan just matched, and you ended up with a house. Right? I mean, you could do that.
Yeah, you just have to construct it so that he feels comfortable, like notes written, lawyers signing things, or whatever you have to do. So it's not just a promise and a handshake.
Right.
Yeah, but you can do that.
Right.
And make him feel comfortable, especially if you gave him a little more. If it was in the deal, to give him a little more.
Right. Okay,
and
so
that's
but
more
your
than
plan
we
and
can get.
his plan match, which is what I mean by terms.
Yeah.
So when you're matching terms and you're negotiating terms, that's how you do it. You let the seller guide you. on how you're going to do it. And then the last thing, and we're going to end off, is that the down payment or the option money. Now, I don't talk about that. I never bring that up. And that's why I'm reluctant on even saying this, because I just pretend like there isn't going to be a down payment. I just don't talk about it. And most people don't either. I find that the fearful do. People, sellers that are fearful, they're fearful you're not going to pay them. They're fearful in life in general. You know, and believe me, I have found that most money people are fearful people. You know, they've accumulated masses of money because they're afraid they can't or won't be able to do something, and they can just write a check and make it go away. I mean, I have a sister like that. You know, she's got a lot of money, and her bottom line is when something gets uncomfortable, she writes a check and she walks away. And that's what she does. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of people like that. Okay? So you know, usually fearful people are the ones that ask for a big deposit. And it's very common that you'll hear, well, give me 50% down.
Sure.
Right? They think their money's more valuable than yours.
Sure.
So these are the major decisions you have to make when you're dealing with a seller. These things that I'm talking about. Okay? And there's plenty of small decisions that lead up to these decisions. Okay, but what I'm telling you, I don't think I could state this clearly enough. You have to understand which decisions you have to make. So you have to categorize the ones we just talked about as the senior decisions and the others as the smaller decisions. So when you're going through the process and you're talking to these people for an hour or 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever, okay, you have to decide, which, by the way, if you're spending 3 hours with a seller, you're not doing a good job of working on the decisions, the major decisions we're talking about. You're allowing the smaller decisions to get in the way.
Oh, right.
You're putting too much attention on the smaller decisions, right? Like Grant Cardone says, in his book, Be Sold, Sell or Be Sold, whatever it's called, right? He says in there that 80% of your objections are actually complaints. And if you take them up, they become real.
So that would be a good time to go back to what the person is really trying to accomplish, what the real concerns are, and just go back to that.
Right. So what he says is you just acknowledge it. So let's just do it. Let's you come up with something. So, so Pete, what do you think?
Well, it makes me nervous that you know, it might be, you know, a few years more than I'd like.
Okay, I got it. But at this particular point, here's my offer. See, I acknowledged him on you're fearful, but it's just a complaint. It's not an actual objection you need to take up.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. What are you going to do? Discuss it, talk about it? You're not going to change from it. You're not going to change, okay, I'll do less.
That's the smaller decision I'm talking about that you're going to have to deal with. So my point is that when you know the difference, okay, you can know where to guide yourself. And not that I'm trying to save you time, but if you know that, then you don't have to spend 5 hours trying to convince somebody about a deal.
I think it's more important that you don't lose the important part of what the person's concerned of.
Right.
Because you'll miss the sale if you're not helping with what's really important, and as they divert from it with these stupid issues.
Right.
You're not going to get to the bullseye.
Right. So these things that we're talking about is the $340.92 hour stuff. So you need to put a meter on what you're doing, how you're saying it, and how you're doing it. You need to time block yourself, like I've taught you already. You need to plug in blocks of time, and keep to them. Because if you don't, you'll go your choo-choo train will run off the rails, and you'll get to the end of the year, do your taxes, and think I didn't make enough money, or I spent too much time, or whatever. Okay. So, how much of your week are you actually doing the 20%? And that's what you got to ask yourself. Okay? Okay, good. So we're done. I'm begging you. I'm on my hands and knees as if I was proposing to you for marriage. I am begging you. Good, bad, or indifferent, please go leave us reviews. We need reviews. If you're on iTunes, if you're on Stitcher, I don't care where you are, please go give us reviews. I read every one of them. I love the feedback. Even if it's bad, we can fix it. I'm not telling you to do that.
Yeah, Bill, the important thing to the listener, though, is we get a much better idea what to talk about.
Right.
And make the show more valuable to them.
Right.
And then it helps us do a better job.
We're going to do this no matter what. So we'd rather talk about what they want to hear than what we want to hear.
Yeah, otherwise we'll just talk to each other.
Yeah,
exactly. I have stuff I got to bring you. You can help me every week. And But if they let us know what they need and what they like in the show, we can make it refined for them.
So I did this a couple shows ago. I'm going to do the same thing. If you actually take the time to go put a review and then go into our support ticket, if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com and click Contact Us in the top right-hand side and send in a support ticket, and you did a review, and you let me know you did the review, I will send you my new book. I'll either mail it to you or I'll ask you if you want. We had somebody narrate the book, so I can send you the audio file. I can send you a PDF document. I can send a physical book to you. I can send the physical CD to you. Whatever you want, we'll do it in exchange for your time for going to give us a review. And I'm not trying to bribe you for a review or anything like that. It's just exchange. You can give me a bad review and still tell me, and I'll still send you the book. I'm okay with that. Okay. The other thing is, we talk a lot about all the documents and the forms we need. If you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff, there's a bunch of stuff on there. The videos of how I do all my 7 different deal structures, the prospects forms, the for sale by owner forms, all that stuff is on flippinghousesforrookies.com/free stuff. And then the last thing I want to say is if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com and scroll halfway down, our other podcast, which is called Flipping Houses Startup Bootcamp, is designed for new people. If they want to go through a checklist of things to do to get their business started, in fact, there's a whole section in there on time blocking. It's only 30 minutes. Today we did an hour, so this is much better than that one. But the point is that there's a sequence of activities that you can do if you want to know what 20% you should be working on to get your business started. I'm not talking about get your business. What we talked about today was making your business profitable. But to get your business started, to get all the pieces and parts together and in alignment, go to Flipping Houses Startup Bootcamp. You'll find that right on the page on flippinghousesforrookies.com, the main page. If you scroll down, both podcasts are there. Which, by the way, if you want to give us a review, you can do the same thing. If you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, you scroll down, both podcasts are left to right to one another, and right underneath it says give us a review. Just go to the website, flippinghousesforrookies.com, and scroll down. You'll find the 2 podcasts. Underneath it, there's a couple buttons that says give us a review on either podcast. Okay? That's it. We're over now.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.